Stepping inside the principal's office, building community with the right synergy. Stepping.
A lot of times this topic comes up with leaders. It's either met with
it's a safe place to be, where leaders can be free. Come learn new lessons.
Gap is closing.
Feel free to ask a question. The principal's office. Inside the principal's office.
I mean, are you guys principals or middle school students?
Inside the principal's office.
Good morning, and thank you for stepping inside the principal's office. My name is Michael McWilliams. Everyone calls me Mac, and I am so excited to be back in this space. We took a little break, and it's too long. I love this space. It's an opportunity for leaders to come, to grow, to learn, to be vulnerable, to take risks, to get ideas, to reflect. There's so many things that are done right here in this space. Thank you for stepping inside the principal's office this morning. Again, I am Matt. I am a career principal. I am ending my 20th year as an elementary school principal in the state of Texas, principal of a Solution Tree professional learning community at work model school. And I love education. I love what I do. I spent 4 days this week doing exactly what we're going to talk about today with the team of teachers, going and getting professional development to sharpen our saw so we can ensure that more kids learn at high levels. And I don't do this work by myself. I do it with an amazing co-host all the way from Chicago. He is amazing. He's known in so many spaces. Yeah, this guy right here, that guy right there. Yeah, you right there, you right there. Charles Williams.
Good morning, Matt. Good morning. I love those intros. Like, you have to do all of my intros because you pump me way up.
You're a hype man.
I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait for the show. As Max said, we did take a moment. I think we could say that we were operating in our spiritual capacity. We recognized that there was a holiday, and we wanted to make sure we talk about finding that balance, and we wanted you to be able to spend time with your family and for us to practice what we preach and to be able to spend time with ours as well. But we are back, and we are looking forward to being with you. As Mac mentioned, my name is Charles Williams. I am a K-8 principal. I don't have 20 years in yet, but I'm wrapping up year 6 at my current building. So I'm at the halfway point. It's 8 years as a principal, 8 years as a non-principal. So I'm at that halfway mark. So I'm about to tip over. But in addition to that, I'm a podcast host of the Counter Narrative podcast, founder of CW Consulting. And then, of course, this is probably one of my favorites, being a co-host right here on this show. But if you are in this space, you know us. We say that every time in case somebody is new here, but you know us. But it is not about the two of us. In fact, we have two amazing guests with us today. We have Roman, we have Matt. And so I'm going to turn it over to both of you to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are. So Roman, I'm going to kick it off to you first.
Hi, everyone. So Roman Nowak. I am a teacher and agent of transformation. I'm out in Canada, just outside of the capital in Ottawa. Aspiring principal, but loving the classroom very much, having a lot of fun. Left the classroom for a bit to go work with our Department of Education on student success strategies, and then went back to implement those strategies in the classroom, having fun. And eventually I'm going to make that tipping point and go into leadership, but I'm also practicing leadership from where you are, which I think is very important. So I'm having a blast. I'm in year 18 in education.
Very nice. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Bennett. I'm in my 19th year, although that seems crazy, of education, having done 3 in the UK, and I've been working internationally for 16 years. I currently work as a deputy head principal at Garden International School, which is a British international school here in Kuala Lumpur. But previously, I've worked at British international schools in the US, in Texas, in Qatar, in the Netherlands, and I'll be taking up my first headship of a secondary school in Spain in August. So I'm very pleased to be here and learn from some very experienced senior leaders, it sounds like. So thank you for the invite for today.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you guys and to engage in the dialogue that we're going to have today. I do want to mention a member of our team that is always unseen, but make sure that inside the principal's office is the excellent product and space that it is, and that is Dr. Wallace Ting. He's backstage. He's our producer. He's our to-do list maker. And it feels good to be back with him today. Let's talk a little bit about our show that is sponsored by SchoolRubric. It is a safe space for leaders to build capacity by collaborating with each other. We have a very eclectic group this morning. But the thing is, we find those similarities in leadership. Leadership is leadership no matter where you are. And I find no matter what level of education you are leading, I love that agent of transformation. I love that, Roman. So we are agents of transformation. Today, we're going to talk about a topic, sharpening the saw, which is very important because a leader cannot take a group of people beyond their own exposure. So it is very important for us to continue learning, continue growing, so that we can actually lead learning on our campus. We have 2 discussion questions today. We are going to allow those to play, and then we're going to have a robust discussion about this. We introduced the 4 of us. We introduced Wallace backstage. But if you are online today on Facebook, we want you to introduce yourself because this is a dialogue that extends beyond the 4 boxes that you see. We want to get you involved as well. If you see me kind of looking off, it is because I am on Facebook and I want to connect with you. And let's have a conversation. Wallace, roll question 1. Uno.
Inside the principal's office, discussion question 1. As leaders, we must find methods to reflect and improve our own practice. But sometimes this is much easier said than done. Can you share how you create time and spaces to be able to work on yourself professionally as a leader and build your own capacity while also serving others?
Wow, that goes back to what I just said. We can't lead to places we've not gone. So who wants to jump in and begin to talk about that? How do we create time and space to build our own capacity while still serving others?
I guess I can sort of start it off. I think towards the first half of my career, I was always waiting for the PD that either my district or someone was going to offer. And it was very much we all went as a group. And I think as I keep growing as a leader, it's finding the PD that's right for me. And it may not be what's right for everyone else. And it may be on my own time, and it's a mixture of podcasts and reading and Twitter or other social media spaces, and it keeps evolving. But I think what's the most important is I always reflect on what do I need, and then how can I go get it and find time. Don't just wait for it to sort of fall into your lap. Go out and make it happen. And I think that's important for any teacher or any leader to do.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Just add on that. I think for me, that's a real key point there, is that so much of what we do is around being systematic in our approach to driving schools forward. We plan so many areas of our schools, and we have systematic strategic plans that we make operational, yet we sometimes can just leave our own PD to chance, and we need to be really systematic about it. We wouldn't do that with any other area of our school development. So identifying for me what's the real need for us, what's the what, and what's the why of why we need to do it, and then really plan systematically and make that commitment to it. And once it's in that place, then I think we're in a position to do it. But time is always the big essence, and it's always the thing that's most complicated for school leaders, isn't it?
Yeah, I like what both of you all have said. And over the course of my career, I have really identified the necessity. And I think that a lot of times we, as leaders, because there's so many things that we're doing that we're managing in our now, that it is easy to not prioritize ourselves. We're serving others. We're making sure that others get the things and the resources that they need. But we have to make our professional learning a priority. And I do that through this mindset that I have, that I am still a teacher, but I am a teacher of teachers. So what teacher would I allow to be in my building and not receive professional development? So I have to schedule time to make sure, like this last 4 days, I scheduled time out of the building to step out of that, to go with a group of teachers to get professional learning that I need, because it's not just about our now, it's about our next. And if you think about mission and vision, values and goals of your campus, if you're focused on next, that has some very some very deep implications on how you manage your now. If you mismanage your now, your next is not going to be what you say you want it to be. So I think that you really have to schedule that time, and it's not going to happen because we'll get caught up in the emails and while I was away, a room flooded, and okay, well, it flooded. Okay, it's fine. I'm not the only one that can do a wet dry back. This time is important for me, and it's okay that I'm away and things are going on in my building. Charles, how do you build this time in this space? I know you do a lot of Twitter and a lot of things of that nature.
So I think the best part of this question is creating that time, right? And Roman kicked it off with this, not about finding time, it's about creating that time. And I don't know about all of you guys, but I know like when the pandemic first started, I kind of loved the Zoom meetings and the Google meetings because it's like, oh, this is awesome. I can be in my space. But one of the things I quickly learned and realized, I was like, I am getting away from that as much as I possibly can, because when I'm in my office and I'm attending a Zoom PD or a Google PD or whatever, like I cannot be fully present in that session because, as you mentioned, right, there's something happening down the hall or my phone is ringing or somebody's knocking on my door. And as the leader that I am, I want to be able to make sure that I'm present, right? We talk about being present, and it's very difficult to be in your building and not be present, to say, I'm going to close my door and be in this session. And so that is one of the things that I'm really trying to do. I know I was joking with Roman earlier, talking about planning PD into your summer or planning your summer around PD. But, I'm doing a lot. We got Kansas. We're going to be in Louisville presenting for Inside the Principal's Office in July. I'll be presenting in Vegas. And my wife was like, are you leaving time for us? But I'm like, I have to get away, because if I stay here, if I stay in this area and I'm staying in my building, I'm not going to grow. I'm just going to keep doing those things. And so for me, that's what I need to do. I need to get away. And I love conferences. And so surrounding myself with other people that are going to say, hey, this is how we're going to push. This is how we're going to challenge. And no offense to the Twitter chats. I love the Twitter chats. But a lot of times when we find ourselves with people that we're like-minded, we're all kind of saying the same thing to each other. And we're like, yeah, I like that. Like, yeah, I know you like it because I said the same thing, right? But so it's like finding yourself with people who are going to challenge you and push you. So getting out of those comfort zones and just getting away.
Yeah, I think also that we have to look at professional development, sharpening the saw, also as not an event. Like I went to New Orleans, I took a group to New Orleans. But the other thing that we need to look at is research says for teachers, the most impactful professional development is that professional development that is job embedded. I've gone and I've sat butt in seat. Can I say butt on a show like this? Yeah, butt in seat.
It's better than the other words, Matt.
Okay, all right. But my butt has been in the seat. I have the PowerPoints. I have the Google folders. I have all of that kind of stuff. But how do we bridge this gap between learning and doing? How do I implement that? So I think the other thing that we have to do as we sharpen the saw is we have to find others that are sharpening the saw as well, so that we can collaborate. And again, as principals, we create and we engineer all of these spaces for teachers to have that opportunity to look at data, to reflect on practice, to say, hey, you did this, you taught that skill better than me. How do I do that? I think the other thing that we as leaders must do is to find those people that are improving as well. And we have to create a plan where we are applying these skills and that our professional development goes beyond the event. I attended a conference this week, and it's great to go as a team because we hold each other accountable for our learning. We've already set a date where we're going to come back and do a retreat where we then review the information we receive and then make plans and then make benchmarks and how we're going to monitor and how are we going to know that this investment of funds and time is actually, get this, showing up in student data, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Kids learn more when we learn more. So what are we going to do with this learning to ensure that more kids on our campus learn at high levels?
And I think as we talk about professional development, and we're talking about improving student learning, and even with students, we talk about their mental health, they have to be in a space to learn. And the same thing for educators is our PD taking into account the well-being and the mental health of our educators? Because it can't be put everything into PD and then forget about the whole balance piece. We've been talking about it, and the pandemic has sort of brought that up to the forefront even more. And so when I look at conferences, when I look at where I'm going, I'm trying to identify how do they include that balance piece in it? Because to me, it's become so important. And if we're going to really model for students and for other teachers this whole idea of balance, then we have to make sure that it's embedded into our own process. And that's sort of the link that I want to make with when we talked about Charles about how do I plan my summer? It's that balance piece has to be present. We have to model that for educators because we lose ourselves in the constant fast-paced life of education.
Right.
Mac, there's so much I liked in your answer there. It really resonates with me with just picking out certain points about, RPD being sustained and change focused, and it's really about outcome driven. And right. Then the word that I think really stuck for me from what you were saying there was about accountability, but it's shared accountability, that this is our learning as a leader, and we set the tone for our schools and we drive that learning. And once we share our learning, it becomes embedded as part of the practice. And I think, what a previous head I used to work for, they had TFM in their diary, which was time for me. And that was really around their professional learning. And it took me a little while to understand what that meant in terms of that's just not time for them to disengage. It's time for them to reflect on their own learning. And it's something that stuck with me.
That is very important. I like that TFM. I wrote that in my black book.
And as we're getting ready to transition here, one of the things I know we're talking a lot about, PD. Right. And so as we build capacity, and that's the other word I want to focus in, is that it's not just about that professional learning, but being self-aware and recognizing how we're showing up. One of the things that I've learned to do this year, and I'm really growing into it, is being able to say, no, like I've reached my capacity. I can't do that. I can't deal with that right now, because if you're going to get the best of me, I can't do that right now. Right. And as Max said earlier, like, you're not the only person that could wet drive. Like, I was that I'm going to do everything, but it's really stepping back and saying, if I am going to be the best leader that I can possibly be, I have to recognize my limits. I have to recognize my capacity and be able to say, no, I'm not going to deal with that right now. Or no, I'm not going to do this thing over here, because in order for me to be 100% in these other areas, right, I have to let some things go. And that's just being self-aware. That's not necessarily PD oriented. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to be cognizant of, which just so happens to be one of the chapters in our book. I know we find ways to plug this in, but in chapter 16,
I just happen to have a copy.
It talks about leading with your strengths, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about being self-aware. And a shameless plug here, if you do happen to be in Louisville, or if you're a member of NAESP, the National Association for Elementary School Principals, Mac and I and Rob, our other co-author of this book, we're going to be presenting a session on this book down there at the conference in July. We did it back in February at TASA. And just so you know, if you're debating, if you get there late, you will be standing in the hallway. We had people in the hallway trying to watch our presentation. So
coming from other sessions, let me leave this. Let's go see what's going on over there in room 394, whatever room we were in.
So definitely make sure that you, if you're in the area, come and see us. We would love to have you there. And I just wanted to recognize, I know Max said earlier, if you're in this space, to say hello. So I saw Peyton, John, and Tina all popping in to say good morning.
Hey, Peyton. That's my new AP, y'all.
Oh.
Hey, AP.
Well, hey.
Hey, new BFF.
So, yeah, let's get ready for question 2, because question 2 is all about kind of making that shift. We talked about PD. Let's talk about capacity and recognizing how we show up in these spaces. So, Wallace, let's check out question number 2.
Inside the Principal's Office Discussion Question 2. In a recent article by Learning Forward, a professional learning association, they assert that building capacity can be subdivided into spiritual, what matters most, intellectual, leading by learning, physical, withstanding the grind, and emotional, managing your reactions. As leaders, what are your own strengths and opportunities for improvement in this regard, and what are you doing about it?
I love this question, kind of breaking it down into those four areas of spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional, and recognizing what are the things that I'm good at, right? Which is usually something easy for us to do. And then what is an area of refinement, something that I need to do a little bit better in, and it being okay with that. So, Roman, I know you kicked the last question off. So, Matt, I'm going to step back and let you jump in.
Yeah, great question, and really made me reflect on those four areas and thinking about where those strengths are. I think one of the things that around the emotional area is about owning consistent behaviors as leaders and being consistent in our behaviors with others. And that's something that we know works in classrooms, and it's something that we're trying to resonate with others. So I think for me, one of the things that I've become better at, or I'm still working towards, is being brave enough to share with people when I'm not at my best, this is what my behavior might look like, and that will mean that this is going to have an impact. So as a leadership team, let's talk about when we're not at our best. What do we look like? What happens? How fast do I talk when I'm not at my best? And what gets dropped, those sorts of things. And I think for me, that's been a real area of growth, and it's something that I need to continue to work on, because consistency amongst your leadership team and then across your school is so important.
I love that. I like this, especially this aspect where you said recognizing it within each other, so we can jump in and support one another, right? It's not always 50-50. It's like that 70-30. I love that.
Yeah, and being brave enough to say it to each other as leaders that maybe we're not at our best today. Let's think about how we move forward with this.
Because, I mean, we've all had rough days as leaders, right?
Absolutely.
Roman, what about you?
I think in one of the areas where I've had challenges, but I've sort of been able to, especially since the pandemic, sort of lead it into one of my strengths is we have to take care of ourselves. So when you're looking at that spiritual and the physical, how do I say no, like you said earlier, Charles, and how do I make time for either going for a walk, going to the gym, stepping back and being okay with it? Because I think in education, we have a hard time stepping back. We have a hard time modeling stepping back, because we want to do everything for the kids. We want to do everything for our community that we possibly could, because these are high stakes. But I think if we want our students, and as we're talking more about well-being, and I think the more that we've gone through this crisis, and as we go forward, and I've been talking a lot about well-being, it's all about modeling it. So I need people to see me say no, or to prioritize my own health or my own time, or that TFM that we were talking about earlier, time for me. People need to see that it's okay, because if we don't model it, they're going to feel like they have that extra pressure, extra burden. And so we have to sort of embed that and live that to be able to truly grow as a leader. And I think that's very crucial, especially now.
Oh, hey, Inga, thanks for popping in. So, I mean, I used to pride myself in Mac. I don't know, maybe as a leader, as you get seasoned, if you could let me know, like I used to pride myself on being like, just in, right? Like that physical part was my thing. Like I would be proud, like, Charles, how do you do all of this? Like, that's what I do. I grind and I'm never going to stop. And I'll be honest, like it really is getting to me. And that's where I mentioned earlier, just learning to step back and say no. That's, I think it's both an area of strength and weakness, right? It could be extremely challenging. We could be running. And I'm going to be okay. I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to pound it out. We're going to get to where we need to be, but also recognizing at the same time, like, I don't have to do that alone, right? And if I do, like, I'm going to burn myself out. I gave the analogy to someone the other day. I was just thinking about it. It's like, we feel like we're running a race, and oftentimes it's more like you're on a treadmill, right? And if you're pounding it out, it's like you're not going to get to an end anywhere, because leadership, education, there's not an end, right? It's an ongoing system. And at some point we step off and we let somebody else get on. So if we're just pounding ourselves, like all that's going to happen is we're going to burn ourselves out faster than we need to. And so it's just recognizing that it's okay not to be that pillar of strength at all times for everybody in every single area. And so for me, it's that physical capacity, knowing that, yes, I do have the capacity to do it, but also not priding myself in that area to the point that I destroy myself. So it's both a strength and an area of refinement.
If I could just jump in, I saw John's comment from Facebook, just sometimes being able to take a quick walk around the building or getting out I don't think we build those, like we talk about how power naps for certain people, it works, and that stepping away and not just being like in that full grind from, let's say, 8 to 5 without stopping, it's not healthy. So taking even that 5 minutes, go out, take a walk, just step back, go listen to something, go have a conversation, call someone, but just to get out of that environment even quickly, I think that gives us that extra sort of pep or that extra little energy that we need and that we don't do enough. So I really love that comment from John.
Yeah, I think that something that I've really worked on that has helped me with longevity is the emotional piece and the ability to self-regulate, which is a skill that we teach our children, and that is having the ability to realize that as the leader, I set the weather in my building. I set the weather in every room that I enter. And I think that is a piece that we have to develop. There was a time in leadership where I was very much a thermometer. I registered the climate where I was. If there's an angry parent, you know, you're sitting there for a while, but oh my gosh, they're pushing buttons. Thermometer, pure. Staff members pushing buttons. Budget, an email from someone downtown, pushing buttons, thermometer. You register what's going around. But one of the things, and especially what the pandemic has taught us, is that we have to be thermostats. We have to control the environment, that we have a circle of influence. And yes, there are some things that are outside our circle of influence. If it's outside of our work circle of influence, why am I having a bad day about it? You know, why am I spending energy focused on? I think in education, we have to realize that we really have more control than we give ourselves credit for. You know, I know legislators, I know things from central office. I know that there are all kinds of things that we don't have control of, but in your building, in your space, for the 804 kids that I serve every day, the 70 staff members in the community that I serve, every decision I make during the day impacts their lives. And so I think that emotional piece of really recognizing that my reactions matter and that other people are looking to me to decide how they're going to react. So I had to realize, and this is really reflective in heart, but some of the chaos that stressed me out and that was tiring me out physically, it was self-inflicted wounds. It was chaos that I created because of reaction. And we have to understand, you're leading from the time you get out of your car. Well, really, when you're driving down 380, if there's someone driving next to you that knows you're the principal, you're impacting that day by the way that you're viewed. You're leading from the time you leave your house to the time you get back. And people's reactions are going to be based upon what they see you do. And that was really something critical that I learned. Probably took me a little longer than it should, but I finally got it. And I think that is the thing that has impacted my leadership most.
Go ahead, Roman. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that whole analogy of the thermostat versus the thermometer and that control you have. And I mean, kids are looking to the adults to see how they deal with things. Other adults are looking to the leaders in their building to see how they deal with things. Right. And if we're not cognizant of that, if we live that stress and show that stress, people are going to think that's how we have to be. And so I think it's important to model healthy leadership and say, do you know what? Yes, we have our bad days and we have to talk about it. But then how do I step back? How do I deal with it? How do I keep or maintain that balance? Because we're leading constantly, especially if you live in the community that you lead in or that you work in, you are constantly leading because people are constantly looking to you.
Right. And then the other thing is in those stressful situations, but this is something else that I had to learn when you're in the staff meeting and you have that one or two teachers that's always, you know, kind of says something that's kind of not a fan favorite. How do you react? Are you putting that person in a light where people can come? Because a lot of times you see that fundamentalist behavior coming out. A lot of it is they just need more information. They need, you know, they're not on board, but it's just because we need to give them more information. We need to convince them. But if the leader is, so it is not just with stress, but we have to recognize that every roll of our eye counts and matters, you know. So yeah, we're thermostats most definitely.
Absolutely. There's a great idea about for the leader, there is no throwaway comment. Just any little comment that's made in those situations has impact someone, and being really mindful of that. And when you're talking about the community there from the international setting, one of the things that can sometimes happen is you can very much live and breathe in that community. So when I lived in Qatar, we were on a compound of 8,000 people, and everyone that was on that compound, that's the school they sent their children to. We all worked for the same organization. You're always at work. You know, even if you're not at work, you're at work, and you have to find the way to balance that and build your emotional resilience to live with that. So yeah, that really resonated with me.
Excellent. I think that it's time to move on to ideas that stick. We've had such a robust conversation this morning, Matt and Roman. We are so grateful that you are here. Before we go into ideas that stick, I just want to plug this book one more time, because professional development, create a book list. Create a book list. What are you reading? What are you reading? There's all kinds of ways to get new information. So Ideas That Stick is one of my favorite parts of the show, because it's when we've had all these great ideas, we have all these buzzwords and all these tweetable phrases, but at the end of the day, what are we going to do Monday that impacts kids? So what will you be doing this summer to build your capacity and sharpen your saw? These guys, they're going to talk, but I am on Facebook. I want you to share, and I want to read your comments as well. My idea that stick this summer, I am going to create a book list, and I am going to read while reflecting on my practice. I'm going to read, and I mark up books when I read. I'm going to respond to the literature. I'm going to stop and jot, and I'm going to write, how does this impact my leadership? How did I do? What are my next steps? That's what I'm going to do this summer. I think who was next? Charles?
Roman is up next, but I was just going to say,
Roman!
Wouldn't it be great if there was a book out there that facilitated stopping and jotting? Just
shameless plug.
Go ahead, Roman. I'm sorry.
Okay, so for me, Ideas That Stick is going to be to really plan and create PD. And choose the right PD to fit my summer schedule. So again, as I think about the importance of family time, of re-energizing, of growing as a leader, I'm going to vary. I love varying my PD, but it's if I'm going to be by the pool with my kids, sometimes, okay, a quick podcast, reading. But really, I want it to fit into my time so I could feel like I'm energized, like I have energy, and I'm not constantly at work. I used to sometimes spend so much time in the summer working around, okay, I have to plan this, I have to read this, I have to go here, I have to go there. And then I feel tired at the end of my summer break. And so now as I look to growing as a leader, it's all about, okay, let's choose the PD. So if I'm going on vacation with my family, okay, I may bring a book with me or save certain podcasts to my playlist. And sometimes there are still Twitter chats that I'm in. And so you really just choose the right stuff for you. And it may not be the same thing for other people, but just be true to you and what you need for the summer.
Excellent.
I think I might be up next, and
yes,
Roman, you've led very nicely into what I'm about to say about choosing what's relevant to you. So I'm taking up my first headship in August, September, and one of the things that's really important to me is about how you establish trust in the school community that you'll be working with and your credibility as a leader. So my PD all around this summer is about revisiting and trying to clarify for me the trust equation and looking at the tenets within that and how I establish that with that community that I'm going to be working with, because it's something that really underpins your values as a leader and how do you get your credibility and your reliability and making people feeling safe. And that's going to be really important for me. So spending time concentrating on that so that I feel in a position where I can really establish trust in the community when I move to the new school, because it's an exciting time, but we've experienced school leaders here, but I'm very nervous in many, many ways about it. So we'll see.
Well, Matt, congratulations on the new role. And if you want any of us to come out to Spain and, help you out, just let us know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that sounds great.
So I'm going to close this one out, and for me, it's just really like I'm doing today, and like I said, this is probably one of my favorite things to do. Is I just surround myself with people who push and challenge me through their thoughtful, they're innovative. That's for me. I try to read, and I love to read, but I know a lot of times I don't have a lot of time to sit down and do that, and so just having these types of conversations and dialogues and just pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I think for me anyway, I've been starting to do this work for a little while now, and it's very easy to get very confident, maybe sometimes overly confident in your skills and abilities, and for somebody to challenge your thinking and to push you to say, hey, I never thought about that before. How can I continue to learn and to grow? And so thank you to the three of you for being a part of that, and Wallace behind the scene here, just to help me to continue to learn and grow as a leader. Today's been an amazing conversation. I mean, we've talked about both PD, professionally learning, but also focusing on ourselves and just being kind of self-aware of who we are, how we show up, and how we continue to sharpen our saw by improving upon our strengths and refining those weaknesses that we may have. So I just want to say thank you again, Roman, Matt, Mac, as always. Thank you for being in this space with us. I know that our next topic in 2 weeks will be reconnecting. We're going to be talking about special education, and yes. I'll be very honest and upfront. This is one of those areas, right? This is not an area of my forte, and so I told the group here that I'm really looking forward to this because I want to continue learning and growing, and so perfect concept of sharpening our saw. But before we do, as we always close out these episodes, we're going to ask both of our guests to share a question that they would love to have addressed on our upcoming episode. And so, Roman, I'll let you kick things off, and then Matt, feel free to jump in. Mm-hmm. What is a question that you would like to have answered around special education? I know it's kind of a broad topic, so maybe you could help narrow that down through your question.
Yeah. So one thing that's important to me, or as I reflect on special education, is how do we celebrate students who are in special education, and how are we more mindful of being inclusive of them? Because oftentimes they're sort of off to the side, or they feel like they don't belong. So how do we celebrate all their unique talents, their abilities? We talk about personalized learning, and really tailor it to who they are and what they need, because I think it's important to celebrate every student. We often see at the end of the year when we see our seniors, okay, well, what are they doing and that, but how do we make everyone feel included and celebrated? And I think as we talk about special education, it's a perfect way to sort of bring in that celebration of those students.
Yeah. Great question. Mine's around really that idea about how do we balance our commitment to do what's right by every student and improve student outcomes regardless of needs, with capability of schools and leaders and staff to support those students, and how do we find that balance between the two for doing what's right for that individual within the systems that we have. And I think for me, that's one of the ongoing challenges in this area around special education leadership.
Some amazing questions, and I'm really looking forward to being able to address some of that and have those conversations. I mean, I absolutely.
Y'all are so engaging. I want to start this conversation now.
Like, can we just do? Yeah, forget May 21st. Just stick around for another hour, and we'll just keep it rolling.
I'm here for it.
All right. So I just want to say thank you. To our guests. Thank you for everybody who's been showing up. I saw Heather and Inga hopping in. So amazing. Thank you.
We need to develop our tans along with our crafts. So she said, don't forget pool time. She's a member of our staff. Thanks, Kuma. Bring me some suntan oil Monday.
There we go. All right. So Mac, anything that you would like to say before we close things out?
Meet us in Louisville, Kentucky on the 15th of July. If you've not picked up this book, go to Amazon and get Inside the Principal's Office. You read a bit, you stop and jot. There's reflective questions. This will help develop your leadership capacity, and join our Facebook group, and let's continue the conversation, and let's really build this community. Again, we engineer spaces for teachers all the time, but we don't always create those spaces for ourselves to learn and grow and to collaborate and to be vulnerable, to say, hey, well, I screwed up something today. Can someone help me? Because take two's tomorrow. So let's build that space so that we can build each other's capacity.
Hey, Mac, before we close out, just want to say Happy Mother's Day. If you are here and you're a mother, that's tomorrow. So very happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. All the mothers.
All the mothers out there. So very happy Mother's Day to all of you. We look forward to seeing you on May 21st. Roman, Matt, thank you for being here.
Thank
Until
you
next
so
time.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at School Rubric with educators from across the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.